Shonda Rhimes is back at it again with another hit show. We're talking about the season 1 first episode of Still Star-Crossed. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Ooh, I like this opening.
It really
this is
sets the
great.
tone.
It does. Oh, and the
Thank
lighting.
you.
I mean, take 2 for Olivia and Candice team. My name is Candice Cruz. You can find me on social media at Candice R. Cruz, and I am joined with my co-host.
What's going on, guys? I'm Olivia Gabaree. You can hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, _O_G.
We're hitting it hard tonight. We've got 2 like really heavy shows, and I
Yeah.
love it. I'm already obsessed with Shonda. Like, I'm excited for this show.
I figured that's why I picked this one up,
Yeah.
because I figured if it was by Shonda's production team, it has to be a hit, right?
And
that's usually how it goes.
It always is. Shonda Rhimes like can do no wrong by my book, but I mean they jump right into it. So I feel like this show is going to be a huge one just because of all those fans of Romeo and Juliet already, and knowing all the different spin-offs that people have done with different movies and different shows and stuff. So I really like the twist that they're taking on this so far.
It's interesting. I don't know exactly what direction it's going to go in, because I mean, it's true to the roots, as in like the characters and the war between the families, but the actual details of the story are very different. Not even necessarily very different, but they're like twisted in a way.
Yeah, it is. And it was kind of like a refresher for me, because I mean, I read Romeo and Juliet back in high school, and, I had to kind of refresh myself with like who's in what house and the basic storyline of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, they start right in the beginning with, the wedding of Romeo and Juliet, and the 2, cousins of both of them being the witnesses of the marriage. And then it just jumps right into all of the war and the turmoil of these 2 houses.
Right. And that's something that's definitely different in the beginning, because right away we get introduced to Rosaline.
Rosaline, yeah.
Rosaline, and in the
Benvolio.
original story, she was not a servant ever, and she was actually of a love interest for Romeo
at the beginning. Yeah.
And he actually was after her before he was after Juliet, and obviously she's still a character, but a very different character.
I love the twist on her, and that she's becoming like, I mean, now that obviously they open up and follow true to the story where Romeo and Juliet die. So now the main basis of the show isn't actually Romeo and Juliet. It's the basis of Rosaline and Benvolio, actually, when he comes into play.
Yeah. And the prince as well.
The prince as well, yeah. I can never say his name. Aeschylus?
Aeschylus.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Prince Aeschylus.
Prince Aeschylus. So, I mean, we jump right into, obviously, Tybalt killing Mercutio, and then Romeo killing Tybalt, and then that's what starts all of this. So, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that, but, I mean, ultimately, I feel like the really big part of the show is right when they find them actually dead. Rosalind finds them. So, I mean, that shows that she's a key character, finding them dead and then going from there.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that she's probably going to be the main character of this story. But, because the prince set the law in stone before he passed, that if, someone from either family hurt, killed, or waged war, anything, they would suffer the consequences. And because that fight had happened between Tybalt and Mercutio, which led to Romeo, obviously Romeo is a part of the Montague family, so he has to suffer the consequences that the prince had set for the family.
And I mean, it was interesting to see the prince have that like turmoil of, I don't think he even wanted to kill Romeo. I think Princess Isabella, she kind of, I feel like she's going to be a big turmoil between the 2. Like the relationship, obviously brother and sister, but like she's never left the palace. So she only goes by, this is stone, this is law. And I think the prince sees a little bit more of the humanity and the relationships and things like that. So it was interesting to see like a little bit more of his character. Right. I think he's going to be a lot more sympathetic than what his father seems to have left the legacy. We don't know much about the father, but yeah, it's going to be...
The characters are just I like it because the characters are not true to
the main
like
story.
well, not even that, but just the norm, as in like usually the female is more sympathetic and softer, and the male is more hard, like to the laws set in stone. And of course we see that's opposite between Isabella and Aeschylus. And I mean, of course, Shakespeare originally was played by all men, but I wouldn't expect for that to be true.
No, and it kind of is true with Shonda shows. Every Shonda show is led by a woman, which I love.
Yes.
So...
And another huge obvious thing is race doesn't matter in these families.
No, which I
There's
love so much.
Like a brother and a sister not of the same race, cousins, like marriages, nothing.
I think that this show is going to be so like controversial in one point because a lot of people are like huge fans of the original play, and it's such a big twist on it. But I also think it's bringing more, you know, diversity to Hollywood, which I think has been such a huge topic as of late. So I love that it's like so intermingled and it doesn't really matter.
It's like and it's not even spoken of. It's just like, here are the characters,
and it's believable.
That's the story.
Though. It's not like a thing that I'm like very aware of until the end. I'm like, oh yeah, oh wait, they're okay. Yeah, it kind of threw me at first that, you know, Rosaline was the niece of Lady Capulet, because I was like, wait, how does that work? And then I realized as the show went on that race really didn't matter, which I love.
Like cousins and aunts, there I could see how it could be different, but
brother and sister,
if they're coming from the same parent, you know.
And then again, if you do want to have some historical fact, I'm sure that there was a lot of like crossing across back then too. So I guess that kind of is interesting. I mean, there's a couple of shows now that are doing the same thing with mixing it. So I really like it. I really enjoy it. But I mean, fast forwarding a little bit through, you know, Romeo killing Tybalt and, you know, the prince wanting to kill Romeo. Now we also have them, you know, we found them dead. But also there was a big turmoil between Romeo and the Count Paris at the end too.
Right, because Count Paris was supposed to have an arranged marriage with Juliet, and the Capulet family was actually supportive of that.
Which we see that like right before that, she obviously doesn't want to marry, you know, have two husbands.
Right.
And that would be considered in sin. And then Paris clearly has no idea and is saying that this is my fiance versus my wife from Romeo. So no one really knows that Romeo and Juliet were married other than the two witnesses, Count Friar, Lord Montague, and now Paris, because Romeo said that prior to his death. So I'm interested to see where that goes too.
Yeah, I mean, because we see that although Romeo stabbed Paris, he's still alive, and he's being kept alive, but it looks like in secret by not really the Capulet family, but more
just Lady Capulet.
Yes.
That's gonna be a twist.
And I'm interested to see where that's coming from, because they wanted to keep it a secret from Olivia and from everyone else, but it was obvious that it was like in a dark room, pushed to the side, closed doors, very secretive.
And whispering about.
Yes. So I would imagine that Lord Capulet is not in the loop in this one.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I also like, we're jumping ahead, guys. Sorry about that. But either way, I love that Olivia even is aware of all of this and goes down to help and pushes her way in to help in that room.
Right.
Because
but I wonder why, though. Like, why does she want to involve herself?
I wonder if it's because Rosaline did confide in Olivia and telling her. So now Olivia obviously knows that they were married.
Yes.
So she's in on the secret too.
Yeah, and maybe it will buy her like some leverage, because now she's in the know and it's obviously a secret and she's aware of it, so it could be to her advantage. And also, I can't help but think if he survives, Olivia is looking for a husband.
She's looking for a nice husband.
I mean, a nice rich husband.
Yeah. Both of these women, like Olivia and Rosaline, are both very smart women. Like, they know how to play the game, and I love that Olivia, yes, she wants to be a wife and she wants to have children, but she's smart. She knows, like, she's going to play the game. She wants to find the right husband, not just a husband. And she wants to, like, I think that might be something in the future. That could be an early prediction.
I know. Interested to see. Very opposite of her sister, Rosaline, who does not care about marriage at all.
But we see more of why she doesn't care about marriage either. I think she was completely burned.
Right.
But I mean, let's jump back a little bit to the funeral of Romeo and Juliet and talk about that too, because I mean, that's what starts this whole fire and this turmoil within the city of Verona, because now, like, Juliet's dead, Romeo's dead, they're at a funeral, they're all gathered together, 2 houses together, which we know that's not a good idea to get all of them in one place.
Yes.
And then, you know, Montague's graciously given this statue as a gift to Juliet's grave for the Capulet family, and someone is clearly tampered with.
Right. And it's pretty obvious that he didn't have knowledge that the statue was, like,
I mean, that would be
ruined.
stupid on his part.
I know, but I mean, obviously it sparks the war, but I can't help but think, like, that's irrational. It's obvious it wasn't done on purpose, but the Capulets feel so strongly about the Montagues. But it's interesting because Romeo's father, he said that he would have been in support of their marriage, which is the complete opposite of how the Capulets feel.
Yeah.
But, you know, to go back, it's probably because, like, the Capulets are they're old money, you know, whereas the Montagues are new money. They're not, their blood doesn't go back as far, and it's not necessarily as, like, not royal, but you know what I mean.
The bloodline's not as clean. It's not as all the way far back.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and clearly, I don't, from the get-go, I'm not a huge fan of Lady Capulet. Just gonna put that out there.
I mean, I don't think anybody is.
I know, but I really don't like this woman, like, at all. Amazing actress, but do not like the character at all. Because, I mean, she is pushing every button she can get. She's pushing the fact that, like, someone obviously wrote harlot on the gift from the Montague family, and automatically she knows.
She kicks it off.
She calls it off. She says, curse on the house of Montague, and all hell breaks loose.
And she's just a bitter woman. And, you know, we come to find out why she has such a beef with Rosaline and her sister Olivia, because obviously they are of the Capulet family. They were not born servants.
No.
And it's so bizarre to me that you would take in your brother's kids, but take them in as servants, not as your own.
I think she felt threatened because clearly, like, they would have been higher up because she married into the Capulet family, correct?
Right. They would be higher to her, but
Exactly.
her husband can't step up and be like, okay, these are my brother's children. This is kind of wrong. But, you know, Lady Capulet has a beef with them because she has a beef with their mother. She actually loved
the other Capulet brother.
And she just ended up with this Capulet.
Yeah. Because she wanted a higher rank, apparently, is what, you know, from my understanding from what Rosaline said, that snide remark of being like, well, you married another Capulet because he wanted the higher standard, the higher rank, or whatever that means.
Yeah. And it's a shame because, I mean, I could see where the beef lies now because we found out that Rosaline's father was stabbed by a Montague, so
in the street, in cold blood.
So that just adds to the beef between the two families.
Well, jumping into that, though, the fact of where she was when she found out, we also see a young Prince Aeschylus outside her window. So that's a twist, because originally that was Romeo in the real story. Romeo loved Rosaline, or was interested in Rosaline.
He was interested. So
Maybe
now the love, I mean, they're not even in a relationship per se, but it's very clear that they had a history. And I could tell that right from the beginning because they were very comfortable with each other. But of course, Lady Capulet has to make things awkward by making her snarky remarks about how it must be weird to see someone like Rosaline who you once knew.
And was your equal or you were peers?
Was once your peer is now someone who's you're lesser than and is a servant. But it doesn't, you know, what we know about the prince is that stuff doesn't really matter to him as much as it would matter to his sister.
Which she even made a remark as well, didn't she? Didn't she make a snide remark to Rosaline?
I think, yeah, in the beginning when they were presenting themselves, because they were allowed to go to the ball as servants. They were allowed to be at the prince's ball, but because the prince obviously loves the servant,
Right.
so. But it's
But she
it's
wasn't
a
a
Cinderella
servant.
type story.
It's so like, ugh.
I know.
And I mean, the only reason why they got to go was because of Lord Capulet. He argued with his
Yes.
wife and just like made it very well aware.
Right, and Prince Aeschylus invited them, so.
And declared them to be there. I'm already in love with this show, though, I have to say.
You like it?
I do. I like it. How do you feel about it so far?
I do like it. I'm just interested. You know, it's a tough one to pick up because it's such a classic and well-known story. The way that they tackle it is going to be, it's going to matter. You know, people are paying attention to every detail, but I think because Shonda is such a respected name and producer that people will approach it with an open mind.
I think so too. I mean, so far I'm really impressed with it. Obviously, I need to go back and refresh the entire, Romeo and Juliet original story. But I feel like pilots are always so hard anyway.
Right.
Because you're getting introduced to all these characters, and even though these are well-known characters, they're being introduced to us in a completely different way.
Yeah, so that makes it even harder to follow each line because we were introduced to so many characters, but because they're playing different roles than the classic story we know, things are easily twisted.
Yeah. I am interested to see, because, obviously the story is already ended in the original. So now how are they going to progress all of this, and what's going to be the main arc line, and where is everything going to go?
Rosaline.
I think it's Rosaline, but I'm also interested to see, they have made mention, Prince made it very clear in a couple of moments of talking about war from outside towns. So I'm wondering if that will come into play as well, because now the town, half of the people are dead.
Right.
We see Rosaline run through and Benvolio saves her.
Yeah.
And then we see half the town's dead and rivaling against one another. So what's going to be left of this actual city?
Well, it's pretty clear that the crown is trying to make an effort to bring the two families together by marriage. I mean, and I don't even really know if that would solve anything. If people found out that Romeo and Juliet were married, would that make the two families like each other more or less?
I don't know, and I wonder if that's going to be the reason why Lady Capulet's keeping, Paris hidden, is because she probably heard and understood that, her daughter was married. Maybe.
But she's shadier than that. Oh.
Yeah.
I think that she feels bad for him because it's her daughter's wrong, but she it has to be in her interest to do this.
Yeah.
She
that,
needs to be getting something from this. I mean, she married so she could
have a higher rank. Yeah, of course.
So it's obvious that she's very calculated, and she makes moves according to a underlying purpose.
Yeah. Well, the two lords of both of the houses are clearly on board with this, because they, like you said with the wedding, they're pushing the two to get married. They're pushing Rosaline and Benvolio to get married, to bond the two houses under obviously the order of the prince, but they seem to be on board. Why wouldn't everybody else be on board if the main matriarchs or the patriarchs of the family?
Montague is down for it, right?
Yeah, Montague's always been on board for it.
Capulet was there?
Yeah, Capulet told his his niece to
just
do it.
Oh, I guess I didn't recognize him. I didn't know it was him.
Both of them were there and put them two together.
And it seems like it was very in secret. It is interesting because in true Shonda fashion, it's the women that are running the show.
Yeah,
it seems like the men are the ones that want to bandage it all up and call it a day.
They're more the pawns of
and it's the women that are not down for it. Princess Isabella, she doesn't see eye to eye with the prince.
I feel like that might be another one too, the prince and the princess's relationship, because the prince is clearly in love with Rosaline. We see them kissing at the end and having romantic relations.
Right.
The princess is going to find out. I feel like she might even be someone that could be someone to watch out for. She might try to
100%.
overcome the prince.
Yeah, and you could see in her eye when her father was dying and he was sort of passing the crown over to his son. You could just see in her face that she had a problem. She was thinking thoughts, like she had a problem with that. But
she loves power. And you also saw that look in her eyes when she was bowing down to her brother. When he's first being announced as the new prince after the father has died. Like, she holds herself prior to actually bowing. I wonder how weird that would be to bow to your sibling.
I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't enjoy it very much.
But, I mean, I feel like that's going to be a huge thing. And she's not thrown off by all of the stuff outside of the palace walls. She's, like, strict. This is the way it should be in the story.
Right.
All of it. Follow the guidelines.
She's definitely a strong woman. And of course, Rosaline, we already knew she was a strong woman, but the fact that she's sitting in front of the prince and the princess and the heads of the two households and she's still saying she's not doing it, like, that takes guts.
She's going to run away.
That takes guts.
It does. And on top of it, it seems like she was fairly innocent or completely innocent from my understanding. And then her ending up, like, kissing the prince at the end.
Yeah, well... They've kissed before, I have a feeling.
Well, do you think Benvolio saw them? Because he came in the last shot. You think that he saw them?
Yeah, he was
completely?
looking over from the top. I mean, I don't really know what that means for them. Like, I don't really know what type of consequences come from that. Because the prince is in power, I mean, who can really...
Well, I mean, power can always be overthrown.
Yeah.
Easily. They keep making it a threat that they don't want their heads to end up on a stake. So that could be a thing. Or Benvolio could use this to his advantage and have, like, the card in the backhand. Being like, listen, I'll marry you. But
I mean, he saw it for a reason, so... But he seems like he's like a good person. He saved Rosaline, you know, and...
I feel like he's just misunderstood.
No, I mean, he is, because he's the outcast in the family. In the original story, it's Romeo that kind of has to be held back and be a better representation of the Montague family. But in this story, it's actually Benvolio that needs to be more grounded.
Yeah. Did his uncle say something about him being betrothed to someone prior to, or a dowry? That was another part of the conversation prior to Romeo being killed or dying.
That Benvolio was a dowry?
Yeah, Benvolio and the uncle were talking. I could not catch completely what was going on. But the uncle made it very clear. He said, everything that you have is mine.
Right. Well, I think that because...
He couldn't pay a dowry to get a wife? Is that what the conversation
Benvolio,
was about?
I think that his uncle would be like the head of the family and the household name. And Benvolio has to answer to him. So... the name and the riches that comes with the Montague that Benvolio gets to, like, reap the benefits of is because of Lord Montague. And,
So
you know, now that his only heir is dead, which is Romeo...
He's the next in line.
Yeah, would that make Benvolio the next...
I mean, they have... I don't know if they actually have complete royal blood anyway. They're lords.
Yeah, it's not royal, but it's just a prestigious, like, name.
Over the riches, yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, I do love all of the, like, historical stuff, too, though. I love the costumes. I love the setup. I love learning more and more about, like... There's a lot of historical fact of having the dowry and having the riches and having the lords and marrying into certain families and stuff. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah. The costumes were beautiful and the set as well.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot going on in this. I mean, again, it's a pilot, so I'm very like...
Yeah, it's hard to keep things straight at this point, but I see where we're going with this.
I do.
I think they had to get the Romeo and Juliet part out of the way.
Poor guys.
So we can, like, blossom the rest of the story.
Romeo and Juliet, you're done in first episode.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have the star-crossed lovers are different lovers than we expected.
Oh, I like that. The star-crossed is no longer Romeo and Juliet. Star-crossed are...
Rosaline and who knows?
Whoever she wants it to be.
We don't know yet.
She's going to be the leader.
It's kind of ironic
I'm ready
because
to see
her sister's, like, really digging for love. And
she's like, I don't want it.
Yeah, and of course. The grass is always greener, you know?
I don't know. I mean, let us know what your predictions are, because obviously we have a lot of fans of this storyline. So let us know what you guys think. If you liked the show, I've heard that this show has had a lot of mixed reviews about it.
Me as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a summer show, so it's coming out during the summer. So a lot of people are like, you know, coming off of other Shonda shows.
Yeah. Also, I feel like so many shows go on hiatus over the summer. So the fact, I mean, maybe because this is one of the only ones, it gives it a better opportunity to shine. But it could go either way at this point, since we're only at episode 1.
Yeah. But I hope it gets a lot of good fan base and go along, because, you know, I love me some Shonda.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys hit us up. Do you have anything else you want to add to this whole storyline? I feel like we covered pretty much everything of this whole plot line.
We did.
Next episode might be a little bit more in depth now that we don't have the basis of the main book.
Yes.
The main story.
Laid it all out for you.
Bam. All right. You guys hit us up with your predictions. Let us know what you thought about the show. You can hit me up on all of my social media at Candice R. Cruz.
Yep, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to next week and seeing where this storyline goes. Again, I'm Olivia Gabaree, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, The Real OG.
All right. Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.